And we'll call to text amendments to section 16 as outlined below. So we've got 12 amendments here, and I know that we discussed this a bit in office hours. And Mrs. Freeman, do you want to just introduce this in total so we have just a recap of where we are, and then we'll get going with the public part of this meeting?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to. So the Zoning Commission has recommended approval on these 12 amendments that are in front of you this evening. They, as a board, have been holding work sessions over the last year, starting in January, to take a look at the RCD Section 16 district requirements and looking at the comprehensive plan update from 2015. There were some recommendations in there that they initially started looking at to determine whether or not they should incorporate some of those ideas into the existing text. So there are several amendments. One of the most significant changes to the way that the RCD projects will be reviewed and not reviewed, but some of the significant changes that are proposed in front of you tonight really have to do with how you determine the preliminary plan and the minimum amount of open space, and also what is allowed to be considered open space. So those are some of the significant changes that you'll see in front of you this evening. And trying to streamline the process a little bit too, as far as we're eliminating potentially the yield plan requirement and asking the developer to submit their best preliminary plan as part of their potential RCD project. So there are several amendments surrounded around that and those type of things. So if there are any specific questions, you also have correspondence that we did send this to the Lake County Planning Commission for their recommendation, which they did recommend approval with some of the modifications, as you can see in their letter dated September 29, 2021.
Okay, before we open up the public hearing, is there any questions from the board?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Well, let's see.
And with that, what I will do is open up the public hearing to public comment. So the process will be is that we'll open up the meeting to comment from the public, at which point we can dialogue about that. Trustee taking it, and then should we choose to close the public hearing, then we'll need to vote on this within 30 days.
20 days.
20 days, yeah. Okay, so we'll have to do that. If we want to continue conversation for any reason, then we can leave the public hearing open and just adjourn it. And then, we'll get the public comments going on here, and then the public hearing will continue until we're done with it, and then the trustee meeting will begin at 7:30 or after, depending upon when we finish with the public hearing. So with that, I'll open up to public comment to anybody that's here in Town Hall in person. And I would just invite anyone to come up, state your name and address for the record, and share with us your comments if you have any. Okay, seeing none from the audience in person, I will open it up to the phone line and welcome Ms. Pesic to address the board with any questions or comments.
Sure. This is Vanessa Pesic, 11705 Cali Court. And I have a number of concerns that were expressed at the Zoning Commission meeting that I'd like to address. Just two of them this evening.
Okay.
And the first is very important. The Lake County Planning Commission submitted comments when the Zoning Commission meeting was in session. And most importantly, they state that the density could be higher than what was even allowed in the previous version of the RCD. It can be much higher because of the way that the current text is written. You only require 30% open space, not the 40%. And then you allow double the number of homes that are currently allowed in the existing zoning text with the remaining percentages, with the remaining percent of the land. And when the director of the Lake County Planning Commission did a rough estimate on one of the subdivisions that was RCD permitted previously, I think it was last year or the year before. He came to the calculation that there would be a number of additional homes that would be granted via this RCD versus that which is on the books currently. And so I'm very concerned that we're giving away far too many additional homes for something that is good for the community if it's done correctly. But if it's a giveaway to developers in terms of density, then it is not a good idea. Every home costs us money, and so it is not in our best interest to increase density without getting a sufficient amount of open space preserved instead. And then the second, this is all under amendment number 516.24. Is the section of the zoning text that I'm talking about tonight. And the second is that the purpose in one of the lines talks about preserving in the natural state the land that is to be considered open space. And it's wonderful, its purpose is there, it makes sense, it's all really important, except the next line says that, however, land that is disturbed during zoning or otherwise not preserved in its natural state, other than common areas and so forth, shall be landscaped with vegetation that is compatible with the natural characteristics of the site. So in the first sentence, you say it must be preserved in this natural state, and then in the very next sentence, you contradict yourself and say that it's allowed to be destroyed, and that you're allowed to put up some vegetation, and that will be okay. Those two sentences should not be in the same zoning text, especially one that is a conservation development where you don't want land disturbed. So it seems to me that these two significant issues need to be further discussed and further tweaked so that we can all feel good that the RCD that will be coming on board is in fact going to be most protective for Concord and the residents and allow everyone to feel good about it. Because currently, I think this is a lose-lose proposition in its state. And I hope that you will respond to these comments, and most importantly, that you will keep this public hearing open so that you can address these issues and a couple of others that have been brought up, and make sure that you're really proud of this legislation before you pass it. Thank you.
Okay, then we've had no other public comment. Mrs. Freeman, could you, and I may turn and ask Mrs. Pesic this question. The first one she brought up with respect to Planning Commission comments. I don't have anything in front of me. I'm confused to what she was referencing.
Mr. Chairman, I'm really unclear. The direct comment that we had from the County Planning Commission was that the density was removed in section 16.24 and is no longer regulated. And they are recommending that we create a density standard.
But we're not proposing to have one now.
Right now, the way that the density is regulated is based on setting aside that 30% of open space and then having that minimum lot size requirement. Similar to how we do it basically in like an R1 district, we don't have a separate density requirement for the R1. We just have a minimum lot size with different setback standards. Okay. I'm not completely clear on the analysis that Ms. Pesic was referring to.
Dave Radici did say that he, and I heard it read at the zoning commission meeting, so maybe you want to take a look at it before you continue on, he said that he stated that the density may be too high without an upper limit. And he did say that he did explain the comment in the letter that was transmitted to Concord. And he further stated in a subsequent phone call I had with him that he would be happy to talk with anybody more about this. But he did show through calculation that you are giving away too much higher density. And so I'd encourage you to both read the document that he provided the township and that you also talk with him.
I don't have record of that in his comments to the zoning commission. Was there a letter that was read that's not in front of us?
No, the only letter that we had from a formal letter from Lake County on these amendments are the one that you received dated
Right.
September 29th.
Yes, and there's no comment to density on that correspondence.
Just what I read, the
Right.
the third bullet point.
I'm sorry, I can't hear Heather. What did it say? What did the document say?
The letter dated September 29th, 2001, from Mr. Radishi, density was removed in section 16.24 and is no longer regulated. Created density standard for the district. Is that to what you're referring?
You broke up. I'm so sorry, I can't hear that. No, he made a specific comment that was read at the zoning commission meeting about 1624 and the density.
It just states that it's no longer regulated and says create a standard for the district. There's no calculations, there's no additional comment as to implications of that. That's the only statement.
Well, there was a complete discussion after Andy read the Lake County Planning Commission comments, and there was actual discussion by all of the members. Heather was there at that meeting where it was discussed, well, is the density too high or is it okay? And you looked through and said, oh no, it's okay because, in one of the other sections, in section B, 1625B, the lot area was so forth, and it would be this and that. So there was a lot of discussion at the zoning commission meeting based on the letter. So there was a fair amount of discussion at the zoning commission meeting. David did tell me that he specifically wrote clearly, he said that he was worried about the density and there should consider a maximum.
Well, Vanessa, I'm going to stop you there because I'm not going to have you recount conversations that you had with Mr. Radishi and then portray them. If I feel like that's important, then I think the trustees or the zoning commission can talk with him specifically. Let's not waste the time of the community for us to have you recount a private conversation with him about this text. I don't think that's relevant. If you have any other additional comments as to that point that are yours, I'd invite you to continue.
Right, my points are, in reviewing the calculations, I did see that the density that would have been yielded with this proposed plan was higher than the actual density that was granted to, I don't know what it was called, Stonebridge Estates or something like that, in an R4, than what was actually granted and currently being platted. So I saw that there is a problem with the with the current calculation as is, and so knowing this RCD as I do, and having been part of the initial Concord RCD study group that was probably done in at least 10 years ago. I'm very, very, very familiar with the zoning text and can tell you that there is an excessive density bonus that is being granted to developers if you pass this.
Okay.
So you can just hear that and do nothing, or you can hear that and do a little bit of homework to figure out why the planning commission said what it said, why I'm saying what I'm saying, and make sure that Concord is not giving away the storm.
Okay, thank you. Does that conclude your comments or at this time?
Yes, and
Okay.
then the only other thing is reiterating the fact that you should not have in there that that the developer should be allowed to destroy as much of the open space as they want.
Okay. All right, with that, is there any comments or questions for the board, from the board?
I have one question. And Vanessa, I'm going to direct it to you because I'm listening to your comments, and I did watch the meeting on October 5th. But the second area that you just mentioned about preserving, where is it at? Right, yeah. Any area within the designated open spaces to be preserved in its natural state. That's letter E, correct? Is that what you're speaking to?
Yes.
And it says here, however, land that is disturbed, not destroyed. It says disturbed during construction. I think that's indicative of any area within the open space that might be altered during the course of normal construction. That's, I think, where they're talking about shall be landscaped with vegetation that is compatible with the natural characteristics of the site. I don't think, is that
right? And, well, right, exactly. And I can imagine that there will be some, disruption for
right.
Easements and for roads and all of that. The second half of that is what is probably even more concerning, because if you keep reading, land that is disturbed during construction or otherwise not preserved in its natural state, that means the developer can do whatever they want with the rest of the open space.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I'll also would like to add, and I know we have legal counsel here, so I'm gonna, in a second, I'm gonna defer to counsel, but I'd also note that this, I don't know if it's the entire bill, it seems like it was amended in 9/1 of 2006. The only thing that's new here is that we've added it originally read as follows: any area within the designated open space that is disturbed during construction or otherwise not preserved in its natural state, yada yada, shall be, and we've added is to be preserved in its natural state. However, land, it's a grammatical thing here. So I still, and Stephanie, I'm just seeing this as we are basically saying if anything's disturbed via construction, they need to return it to its natural state.
Sure.
And we've had that in the zoning text pretty much in the same effect since 2006. We've been operating under you tear it up when you're building stuff, you return it to natural state. Since 2006, that's been the standard in Concord. Is that fair to say?
That's correct, and I think we're mixing kind of two different theories here. We're talking about areas that are disturbed as part of construction that have to go back to its natural state, and then there's area that's specifically designated on the plan as open space.
Right.
So those things are two different aspects that we're talking about. They have different legal effect.
Right.
But the text is saying either put it back to how it was, don't disturb it, but if you have to disturb it, put it back with similar vegetation so that it essentially is undisturbed.
And just a question for Mrs. Freeman. In your tenure as the zoning inspector here or working with the township, have you ever run across a time where we've had a problem with this not being complied to in an RCD? Being as that it's been in the text this way for so long.
It did come up a little bit with, if you recall, at with the villas at Canterwood. The engineer was making the assumptions that they could utilize the existing language and disturb the open space as part of the construction and then just put it back
Right.
to normal.
And that's effectively
so,
what we're saying with this, is that if you have to do it.
Yeah, so like there was, you know, I know I looked at their grading plan, there was a little bit of grading within a few feet, you know, of the boundary of the open space.
Right. Okay.
So that hasn't been finally approved, but
by and large, when we're doing RCDs, we're not having a problem with this particular point in the text. We haven't had a range of problems here.
well, there's been a debate on that. You know, we went back and forth on the detention basins, and you know
Correct.
whether that was a permitted disturbance. But with this amendment that's in front of you tonight, if it gets passed, you know, we are very clear on the record that those that infrastructure is not allowed to be counted nor be included in the open space at all.
And just one final question for council, Stephanie. The way I'm reading this, I mean, if we got into a situation here where we're trying to enforce it, I mean, this could definitely be, say, a developer's attorney coming to us and us standing a point, and we'd be into discussing how various attorneys might view this text, and we're, you know, that's what attorneys do, is debate the nuances of it. And the point to that being is that no text, no legislation is ever perfectly written, that it's always ultimately tried out through process.
That's what courts are for.
Yep. Okay.
I'm sorry, I had again some difficulty. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but, so the question that I have, for legal then is land that is otherwise not preserved in its natural state. So for whatever reason, they decide that they want to fill in some wetlands. They're going to mitigate those wetlands to a land bank in Ashtabula County. That's their prerogative. They're allowed to do that. They're allowed to fill them in and mitigate them. And it says that land that is otherwise not preserved in its natural state can be landscaped with vegetation. This text does allow that, correct?
I'm not sure I understand your question. Say that again about wetlands?
If the developer decides that they want to, they have 30% open space and they've designated it as open space. And even though and then they decide that during the negotiations with you in the township and with everyone, they decide that they want to fill in some of the wetlands, it's still considered open space because they're not building anything on it. They're allowed to fill in that wetland because that sentence says, however, land that is disturbed during construction or otherwise not preserved in its natural state. Just needs to be landscaped with vegetation. That would be allowed because
Well, I
of
guess
that sentence.
I'm confused a little bit in the sense that the text addresses wetlands and says that it's not counted in open space. Right? I mean,
What?
isn't that what I saw? The stormwater
Stormwater,
features. Oh,
basically,
stormwater,
yeah.
not wetlands. Disregard. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm mixing two issues.
I have a
I
comment.
guess the question is if you mitigate wetlands, is that, and then return it to, like, let's say around its grasses, and then you sort of mitigate the wetlands and then you extend the native open space less the wetlands. Is that still? I mean, again, this is the attorney thing. Is that still
I
the
mean, our
definition
concern
of
is the open
native?
space is designated
Right.
on that preliminary plan.
And I don't know why you would mitigate wetlands in an open space.
You wouldn't be
Yeah.
disturbing
Right.
wetlands as part of development, but I guess if you did, we're concerned about that defined open space area, not necessarily whether it's determined to be a wetland or what grade it would be. And the text is wetland considered as part of the open space?
The wetland
Well,
is a natural resource
right.
that could be protected within the open space.
I mean, not to sit there, but again, I don't want to. I really don't want to run down the what ifs and whatnot because I don't think that's constructive. And we could sit here all night and debate the legal back and forth. I mean, I'm not an attorney, so maybe I couldn't. But I think I run the question of like, well, if it's wetlands, like why wouldn't you? Why would you?
I don't think to just like say it has to be this or that. I'm giving you just one example.
Well,
Give you
Vanessa,
another
no,
example.
I'm not going to sit here all night and run through potential examples. I mean, the text is the text, and the process is the process. So I hear your comment. It's taken, it's received. I'm not going to debate it. I want to just say to the board and to Stephanie and Heather, my observation is this is that, to use that example, mitigating wetlands, if it was in the open space isn't going to be touched. The only way it would be touched is if, we had to take a tractor through this area to do construction, and now when it's done, we put it back. It's really not part of that. Wouldn't happen.
I just want to jump in here.
Right, and so another example that you just.
Vanessa, I'm not addressing you. I'm addressing legal counsel, and I'm addressing my zoning inspector.
Were because in Eagle Point, the developer considered, and you agreed, that a lot of their land in open space was natural forest and in woodland. And yet then they mowed it all down and took away the timber. And again, because of this exact language that you just told me was fine and had no problem, it really was a problem because it was open space that was supposed to be in its natural preserved state, and yet they mowed down all the trees to harvest them and left, bare woods with potential problems with water as well as with no trees. So you heard a big problem with that exact old language, and that's why I'm asking that you do something to modify that language to better preserve the open space and protect it.
So open space is not, you're not required to do an RCD. An open space is a benefit to the township and to the developer. They're getting something in return, smaller lot sizes, increased spacing, but we're also getting the open space back that would be otherwise be buildable. So it's not a designated area in every single preliminary plan that like, okay, there's houses here, has to be in this specific area. The developer still has the ability to decide where that open space is. So the wetland hypothetical, I guess, isn't applicable across the board, but the open space is not going to be the same for everybody. So wherever we can manage the open space, that's why we're saying wherever you can fit it, if you have to do something else to build around there, you have to put it back. So I just wanted to clarify that there's no requirement where that open space is or that it has to be the wetlands. It's wherever the developer can make it fit in compliance with the rest of the district.
And I guess to my point of what I was attempting to ask you was that wetlands and open space are that's a commingled, it's two separate issues, really.
It is. I think from a development standpoint, you would want that wetland to be towards your open space because it kind of is unbuildable, but whether or not they choose to designate that as the open space is not up to the township.
Correct. That would be up to the developer at the time. And I guess I'll just make a statement. It's theoretical, rhetorical. I'm not asking you to debate this, but if a wetland chunk is there, and it happens to be that houses are gonna end and the tail end of the property is now gonna be wetlands to the property line, it's just a rhetorical question, but why would the developer even bother to mitigate it if it's gonna be open space? I don't even know that seems, I guess I'm asking, in order to be clear to council, there's that, and then Heather, I mean, open space is open space, you wouldn't mitigate wetlands within the open space.
No, because
like
I don't think a developer would do that because there's a fee, there's
Well,
permits that are
costs
required,
money
there's a
to do
cost
that,
to them
yeah,
that would be unnecessarily.
All right, so I guess if the other trustees have any questions regarding either of those points.
I just want to mention on the first point, the density, sort of the same thing. It seems like each parcel of land or each whatever area to be developed has its own challenges. So to create a density standard based on sort of those challenges may be difficult, and I know this took a year sort of in the making, so I'm just wondering what the zoning commission, how they determined that 30% kind of met that balance. Can you comment on that at all, Heather?
Oh, sure. So the zoning commission, they did debate on, what should be the minimum amount of open space. We did take a look at all of the previously approved RCDs in the township. all of them except for one was at 40% or more. At that time, obviously, there was the density bonus baked in, so every developer was going to try to maximize their density, and so in order to do that, they were going to do that 40%. Couple projects like Orchard Springs was much higher open space because they had more wetlands and were able to protect more areas. So the board felt comfortable there was a little bit of debate. Some wanted 40, some wanted 30, 35, and they ended up recommending 30 to this board. We looked at some other communities too that are their minimum open space is maybe 40%. I will note that our current RCD text, the minimum open space is really the required is 10%. So right now we're increasing that minimum open space requirement, even though a developer never came in and did a project with a minimum of 10% open space. That is our current threshold, on any RCD. And so even when the comment came in from the Planning Commission asking us about the density requirement, we did have some discussion at the Zoning Commission meeting about that. There was no additional letter from Dave Radacci, because I had a conversation with him after receiving this, and he was concerned that a developer could come in and try to configure lots that might not be desirable, like rear lots, like flagpole lots, and try to get something approved by the board. And that was where some of his concern was coming from, as far as not setting a separate density outside of the way we have it currently set up. But the Zoning Commission felt comfortable with since these are rezones, and as part of the rezone, you do have a pretty good say on what gets approved as open space and the number of lots, that they felt that the current text that's in front of you is solid. And yeah, they kind of compromised as a board on the 30%. But like I said, there were a few that, would have probably pushed for higher,
So you did have that discussion they did have that discussion based on this Planning Commission comment.
Yeah, but there wasn't. But what Ms. Pesic was referring to, I wasn't quite sure what she was.
Yeah, because this is what we have to look at. So
yeah,
I'm
right.
confused as to where. Okay.
I will say I like the 30 number. I feel like a couple times we've looked at developers stretching themselves to that 40, and then kind of back to that desirable lot question. We're like, hey, we're trying to get here, and we're doing this, and I sort of like having that a little bit more. Stop trying to get there, trying to squeeze, get the 11%, get the 40%, and then utilize the 11% increase in density, and then you get some you get some goofy stuff. Or you're like, well, it's not really our position. They're going to ones have to sell it, and we're not here to sell lots. That's not our problem. But it does certainly make you scratch your head and you look at a couple of those plans. Are you? Do we want to continue the conversation? Do you have any research? Want to close the public hearing and vote on this tonight, or we got 20? We'll have to do it. Yeah.
How many? 20 days.
But then the clock starts. A little more time. You want some?
I think I'd like a little more time to consider some of this.
I mean, the zoning commission's working on this for 12 months, basically.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not fine if you
digest.
if you want
We can leave it
to.
open.
Okay, so motion to
Yeah, I'll make a motion to keep
recess.
the,
Recess the public. We're gonna recess the.
Is that what's on?
Stephanie.
That's right.
Yes.
yes.
I will second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll recess the public hearing, and there you go.
Go right into it.
We'll roll right into the regular trustee meeting. I will call to order the Concord Township Board of Trustee meeting for Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021. Would you please join me in the pledge of allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mrs. Dawson, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Lucci,
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer, and Mr. McIntosh.
Present. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the October 20th regular trustee meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the October 20th, 2021 regular trustee meeting minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, elected officials report, fiscal officer Amy Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. As of October 31st, we were 83% of the way through the calendar year. Treasury balance for the 20 active funds within the Township Treasury was $16.6 million. This balance includes approximately $905,000 in funds set aside for specific projects for 2021, namely the Summer Road project and a big piece of equipment that we have not been billed for yet or received. This does not include the fire station projects. We have approximately $10 million set aside for the fire station projects and $1 million for American Rescue Plan restricted projects, which we're still working on. Year-to-date expenditures were 53% of the amount appropriated for 2021. Revenue received year-to-date is 96% of the amount budgeted. Some of the categories that were low in as far as revenue received over the past 2 years would be the JED hotel tax and actually our liquor permitting tax. It's significantly lower than it has been in the last couple of years. We will not be receiving real estate tax revenue, which is our main source of revenue, again until the end of the first quarter of 2022. So I'm estimating that we'll need to carry over a minimum of $4.5 million in working capital, not in special projects. That money won't be touched. Okay. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call my office, 354-7516. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Dawson. Trustees, Mrs. Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had the honor of swearing in our 3 new captains today for the fire department. We are so proud of our department, of these gentlemen, of leadership. So it's really an honor for us to do that today. I also want to read a letter that we got from Leroy Township from the Fire Chief Michael Toman to Chief Zabo. On behalf of the Leroy Township Fire Department and myself, would like to thank you and your crews for the assistance of a Leroy Center, for your assistance at Leroy Center on October 26th. This was a very dynamic and dangerous situation that could have ended much worse, but with the teamwork of all departments involved, we were able to bring it under control in a timely manner. As always, we value our working relationships and would not be as effective and efficient without them. Thank you for your assistance. So thank you very much for that. I want to say congratulations, Mr. Dondorfer. I am so thankful, and we get to serve a term together with Mr. McIntosh. So I'm very proud of our commitment to service, and I think we're all going to do great things, continue to do great things for Concord Township. We had another great turnout in the Halloween hunt. Mr. McIntosh was Marty McFly, and I was a witch again, but we missed a couple people, but we enjoyed having our fire department there, our service department, and rec. Thank you for putting on such a great event. We had a good turnout, and look forward to next year. I, as well as Mr. McIntosh, I know, spent the whole day yesterday at our Lake County Board of Elections as polling rovers, and although it's a very long day, it's very fulfilling. We're so proud of the integrity of our Lake County Board of Elections. The leadership is awesome. It was a little strange without Mrs. Claire there, but I think it went really well, and really excited about the new equipment. So congratulations to everyone who was elected. We did get a letter regarding some private property political signs, which this comes up every year, and we are not able to enforce those issues. Maybe Mr. Dondorfer can expand on that in a little bit. Other than that, I wish everyone a great November, and don't forget to put those driveway markers up, and snow tires pretty soon, so unfortunately it's that time.
It's coming.
All right.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Lucci. Mr. Dondorfer.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Yes, I would also like to congratulate Mrs. Lucci on her elected position. Yeah, I feel very fortunate that we're serving Concord Township. I grew up in this community, and I look forward to further service and doing the best that we can for Concord and making reasonable and prudent decisions on what's best for our community. So I'm excited about that. Did have a few calls since the last meeting. It's an issue a road under construction and development with a road hazard that we took care of rather quickly. Tim Brown helped me with that. We did have a complaint about some traffic hazards on 608 that I'm working on with a resident, and we did have an issue with some political signage on some private property that I'm going to follow up with the resident this week. Other than that, not too much. I think that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. Well, I would like to offer my congratulations to both Mrs. Lucci and Mr. Dondorfer on their re-election, or election, Mr. Dondorfer's re-election. Oh, actually, both, right? It's a pleasure to serve with both of you. And, I often, as a zoning commission member and member of the community, looked at the prior board and saw the chemistry that they had and the joy that they gave in serving the community. I have come to love being a trustee in Concord. I care a lot about this community, and I'm proud that we have what I see as a very similar chemistry, and we're definitely, taking things on and creating our own record and just doing things in a new way. I'm excited to work with both of you, and I look forward to the next couple of years working together, and it's been great. Haven't had a whole lot going on. I know we're continuing to work the law enforcement thing. I know we've got a deadline coming up. We need to deal with that, but I know we're doing research. I had some of the same residents contact me about traffic and whatnot, and I know we're taking care of that. So, and I had a fantastic time working at the Board of Elections. I've done a lot of my participation at the Board of Elections is as old as that zoning text I read. So I've been doing it a while, and it is. You get up in the morning, you're tired. It's like, what am I doing here? But at the end of the day, when the polls close and the ballots were counted properly and you help solve problems and got people to their vote, it's really fulfilling. So I'm always going to keep doing that. I'm sure they won't let me do it when I'm on the ballot though. So
Just keep you out of the area.
yeah. All right. With that, we'll move into department reports, and because our administrator is absent, we get to hear Deb Exker twice tonight, but we'll let her lead off the batting order, so to speak, with Administrator Rose's report.
Good evening, everybody. I am honored to pinch hit for Andy this evening and present the administrator's report. And in true recreation style, I got a PowerPoint. Fire it up, Rick, please. So I know Andy has some pretty big shoes to fill, and inside those shoes usually contain some pretty amazing socks. So in honor of Andy and his colorful array of footwear, I present to you the socks that Andy would have worn tonight had been here. We shall keep Andy in our thoughts tonight and perhaps in our shoes if we are so lucky. And now for the administrator's report. Andy continues to work on researching and collecting data regarding the possibility of water line expansion to those areas in Concord Township experiencing poor well water. He's working hard to be fiscally responsible and exploring grant opportunities within the state of Ohio for such expansion. Andy is also working with Amy Dawson, our fiscal officer, and Mike Lucas, our law director, researching and discussing the use of ARPA funds, or American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 funding, for various needs in the township that would meet funding requirements. The American Rescue Plan Act states that funds may be spent to respond to the pandemic and its negative economic impacts, such as restoring cuts in public services caused by pandemic-induced revenue losses and avoiding additional cuts. Investing in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure is also included in the appropriate uses of ARPA funding. The second bid opening for construction on Fire Station 1 is scheduled for 2 p.m. on Thursday, November 4th at Town Hall. Sealed proposals marked for Concord Fire Station number 1 will be received at Town Hall until 2 p.m. on November 4th and then opened and read aloud. More information on the bidding process can be found on the Concord Township website under the Fire Department at www.concordtwp.com. Contract negotiations with the Firefighters Union will begin later this month. This affects full-time firefighters only, and the agreement lasts for a 3-year term. And that concludes the November Administrator's Report.
Thank you, Deborah. And next up, the Fire Department, Chief Sabo.
Good evening, everyone. So for the So far in the year 2021, we have had a total of 2,299 events, taking us well over our total number from last year and even 2019. In the EMS side of things, we had 171 events with 128 transports. We had 6 fire events. 4 of them were inside of Concord. We had 2 small grass fires and 2 appliance fires, including a microwave and a stove. Outside of Concord, we assisted on 2 structure fires. We gave mutual aid to our neighbors 17 times and we received mutual aid 16 times. Once again, our Fire Prevention Bureau was busy in the month of October, being Fire Prevention Month. They did 45 total inspections, which accounted for about 60 hours. They did 2 plan reviews, participated in about 12 hours of continuing education, and assisted in 1 fire investigation. October was Fire Prevention Month, and this year's theme was the National Fire Protection Association was the sounds of safety in the home. This year's program focused on smoke alarms, what to do if the smoke alarm beeps to signal a fire, what to do if the smoke alarm chirps to signal a low battery, how to exit the home, where to install your smoke alarms, and carbon monoxide detectors, and what to do when they beep and how to exit the home. This may seem technical for the children, but the children do learn at a young age and take this education and materials home to their parents. This helps educate the parents and keep them informed. Parents tend to follow the lead of their children because they tend to make them feel guilty about not doing a fire drill, so that helps us. The Sounds of Safety presentation was delivered to 1,246 elementary school children throughout Concord Township in both the public and private schools. Both fire safety inspectors Doug Rott and Brian Spangenberg presented the public safety education with the assistance of the on-duty firefighters. The education was presented virtually or in person as directed by the school's protocol. And to assist in the delivery of the fire safety message, the inspectors provided wristbands, badge stickers, pencils, rulers, fire helmets, coloring books, pamphlets on EDITH or exit drills in the home, and home fire safety checklists for the parents to use. All of these items are graciously funded through donations from the aluminum can recycling at both of our fire stations and generous donations from our businesses. Just a reminder, first of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, as that's coming up before our next meeting. It's hard to believe. Just make sure you're safe. We tend to see a higher incident of fires during Thanksgiving with all the cooking, and just make sure everyone's safe and keep an eye on your pans and cooking appliances and all that so everyone can remain safe. I do want to thank Concord Township for their continued support of the renewal of our operating levy. That was a huge success to us and very, very much appreciated. And just to reiterate, that is strictly operational. That basically keeps the lights on in the buildings, pays for some of the benefits and salaries, and some training, uniforms, stuff like that. So it accounts for a big chunk of our operations. So we thank the residents, and I also want to thank the firefighters, because without them, they're the ones that are out selling the department, and their professionalism and attitude in the field is bar none. I mean, it's amazing. And again, I would like to also congratulate Captains Bilal and Homovec on their swearing in this evening. And these candidates, not just them, but all the candidates that went through the process spent months preparing. It's an arduous process, starting with a written examination that takes several months to prepare. They had to study 3 texts and then pass a written test. Those that passed went on to an oral board assessment by the Ohio Fire Chiefs, and that's a panel, and that was very aggressive. Then they went through a peer evaluation and finally a trustees interview. So it's a long process, but it's a good process, and it works. So we congratulate them and look forward to the future leadership of Concord Township Fire Department. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Brown.
Good evening, everyone. The service department's been busy finishing up our construction season. Our crews made several road and drainage repairs and enhancements throughout the township this summer. In the past month, the crews have been out installing snow barricades, winterizing our parks and community garden, performing ditch maintenance, and prepping our equipment for the winter operations. Crews are also out evaluating the roads for next year's repair season. The service department's plow fleet is ready to respond to the first weather event that causes slippery conditions. We remind residents to plan for extra travel time when the winter weather arrives. The annual At the Curb leaf pickup will take place on November 29th, starting at 6 a.m. Major waste disposal plans to cover the entire township in one day. The service department urges residents to have their yard waste bags at the curb the night before. The yard waste drop-off is open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the service department and will close on November 30th at 2:30 p.m. Residents will no longer be able to drop off yard waste at the service department. Residents with questions or concerns are encouraged to contact the service department at 440-350-3225 or by email at concordtwp.com under service department. We hope all residents have a safe and healthy fall season and enjoy their Thanksgiving holiday. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Zoning Department, Heather Freeman.
Good evening. During the month of October, the zoning department's been busy issuing permits. We issued 25 zoning permits and collected $4,200 in fees. Additionally, staff has been out doing site inspections. We issued 14 zoning certificates of compliance and followed up on 10 new complaints about potential zoning violations. Just a quick brief reminder to our residents this evening that may own recreational vehicles such as campers and boats. As the season has ended and winter is approaching us, please keep in mind that these vehicles must be stored within an enclosed building, or if they are going to be stored outside, we do have zoning requirements. The campers, recreational vehicles need to be stored behind the building setback line, screened from the adjacent property, and on an improved surface. So if there's any residents that have any specific questions about those requirements, please feel free to reach out to the zoning department staff. That's all for this evening. Thank you and stay safe.
Thank you. And round two at the podium, Deb, Recreation.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. And heartfelt congratulations to Trustee Lucci and Trustee Dondorfer on their maintaining their positions on the Board of Trustees. As we approach the holiday season, your Concord Township Recreation Department is planning festive, family-friendly fun in the form of enriching classes and lovely holiday programs for all to enjoy. But first, let's take a look at the fun we had at our Halloween treasure hunt. Rick, PowerPoint, please. Thanks to everyone who participated in the Township's annual Halloween event last Saturday. The treasure hunt was a big success and provided loads of treats to a lot of adorable little costumed kids. Thanks to our trustees, our fire department, and our community partners for their dedication and enthusiasm and making the event great. Here we go. Take time for yourself this month and enroll in a leisure class through the Recreation Department. November classes include gentle morning yoga, evening Pilates yoga fusion, martial arts, Tai Chi, a new writing series intended to help you focus on a clear path forward in life, starting with a class on writing down your heart's desire, and a second class to release negative energy with a burning bowl ceremony. Pamper yourself with a class making body butter with fall scents, a fall-themed guest soap class, making Christmas cutting boards to add something special for your holiday parties. You can learn how to talk to the world with amateur radio and learn how to get started with Medicare. Residents and guests are welcome to register for classes online at concordtwp.com or simply call the Recreation Department for immediate assistance. The Concord Community Center will host another Red Cross blood drive tomorrow, Thursday, November 4th, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Register to donate at www.redcrossblood.org. They can accommodate walk-ins, but prefer folks to register beforehand for planning and supply purposes. Veterans Day is Thursday, November 11th. In honor of veterans living in Concord Township, the Recreation Department is giving away thank you gift bags to all veterans visiting the Old Stone School between 11:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. that day. Dan Maxon will be on hand to give personalized tours of the schoolhouse as well. With respect, honor, and gratitude, we thank our veterans for their courage, dedication, and sacrifice to our nation today and always. The Mentor Public Library is back at the Community Center on November 9th for another Library Tuesday program. All are welcome to come and learn all about the life and times of Queen Elizabeth II. Most people living today never knew a British monarch other than Queen Elizabeth, and this program details her life and the people and the events that shaped her monarchy. Library Tuesday programs begin at 10 a.m. and are free and open to the public. However, we do ask that guests pre-register through the Recreation Department so we have enough treats and seats. Our next senior social is November 10th, when local author Jennifer Engelking discusses her new book, The Hidden History of Lake County. Then on November 17th, we celebrate Thanksgiving with our senior group as we host our ever popular annual Friendsgiving potluck lunch at the Community Center, and that celebration begins at 1 p.m. Senior socials are usually free and all are welcome, but again, we ask that you contact the Recreation Department to reserve your seat. Here's another reminder that Concord Township celebrates our bicentennial in 2022. Residents will receive a special bicentennial publication that will be included in the Winter-Spring 22 edition of the Grapevine newsletter. It lists information on special bicentennial events planned to honor our township throughout the year. And we continue to warmly invite residents and businesses to get involved. Contact the Recreation Department for a full list of opportunities for sponsorships and volunteer opportunities. So I was driving to work this morning and turned on my favorite classic Sinatra radio station, and they were playing Christmas tunes. So here we go. Save the date for Concord Township's annual Holiday Tree Lighting Celebration on Friday, December 3rd, beginning at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. We'll begin the evening with the traditional flipping of the switch by our Citizen of the Year to light up the township tree in the gazebo. And after a few carols, we'll invite everyone inside Town Hall to meet Santa and Mrs. Claus in this very room and enjoy some festive refreshments. The tree lighting event is sponsored by Mountain Creek Tree Farm in Concord once again this year, and we truly appreciate their support. And finally, on behalf of the Concord Township Recreation Department, we wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving filled with beautiful memories of loved ones we've lost and joyful family gatherings filled with peace and love. And let us remember that there is always, always something to be thankful for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deb. And Concord Law Enforcement Sergeant Nifali.
Good evening. Congratulations to Mr. Dondorfer, Mrs. Lucci, and the fire department. We appreciate you guys' support and your support as well. So very nice to see. For the month of October, the Sheriff's Office responded to approximately 800 plus calls for service. Of those calls for service, we investigated 2 aggravated menacing arrests, 10 damage accidents, 1 injury accident, domestic violence arrest, 4 possession of drug arrests. 1 originated from a suspicious circumstance at the Montessori school. There was an AR-15 found inside the cab of the truck. The other had a handgun and was charged with improper handling of a firearm and CCW. There was a theft of a converter arrest, an assault and child endangerment arrest, a theft and vest out of Tri-Point and OVI arrest, 80 warnings for traffic violations, and 4 citations for traffic violations. It is becoming that time of year. It is Christmas is coming. Packages are going to be delivered more than usual. Please be cognizant and get your packages off your porches as soon as possible. Try to have somebody home so we don't see an uptick in that. Also, burglaries do tend to increase during this time of year. It's starting to get darker earlier and darker in the morning time as well. So burglaries happen all throughout the days. It doesn't just happen at night, doesn't just happen during the day, but have your lights on outside, have motion cameras if you can have them, or increasing those. I'm seeing an increase in those in the neighborhoods. We also are implementing a program that we're partnering with the county for Scram, where you can log your that you have cameras with us. So when an officer goes to an emergency scene or an a situation where we're investigating an incident, we can look on a map and say, okay, well, this house has cameras. And we can strategically type you an email to say, hey, can you review your cameras? It will help expedite trying to find a suspect. Also, we are starting our Explorers program in January of 2022. We are advertising on our Facebook program, ages 16, no older than 20 years old. The application is on our website. Please look at our website or our Facebook for more details. We are starting the applicants in. We send out sponsorship letters to try to get funding to make the process free and uniforms free, etc., for the students. So they'll actually kind of be employed with us, but kind of on a volunteer basis. They'll be members of our Explorers team.
Is that a new program, or have you been running?
This will be new.
Okay.
We're starting.
I was a law enforcement explorer for several years. It's kind of how I sort of drifted that direction. It's a fantastic program.
Absolutely. We're extremely excited about it. I visited all the schools. And we're getting applications rolling in. I want to try to make it free and the uniforms free or cost efficient as possible. So I'm hoping some of these donors that we're reaching out to will help assist that. But regardless, it will be well worth it. They'll get top of the notch training. They'll be prepared, for the police academy when they're of age. Or we want to hire from this crew too. So corrections, dispatch, eventually deputy, because you have to be at 21 years old to be a commissioned law enforcement officer. You only have to be 18 to be dispatcher or corrections. So this will help us with future career paths.
Fantastic. That's awesome. That's a great deal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, audience portion. Again, I will just open it up to anybody that's here in person. Okay, and we have the phone in. Okay, hearing no audience, we'll move on to old business, which we have none, and then we'll get into new business. I want to step back because I missed something in my report. I also want to recognize Amy Lucci as the top vote getter. Carl, what's happening? Are you slacking off?
Congratulations.
So anyway, all right.
It was only like 46.
You got some work to do next time there, buddy. All right, and with that, we'll move into our votes for this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the October financial report.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional offer of employment to Grant Egensberger, part-time probationary firefighter EMT, basic, pending background check and physical.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the Coronavirus Relief Fund number 2272 as it has a zero balance and has been audited.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the conditional offer of employment to Nicholas Light, part-time probationary firefighter, EMT, basic, pending background check and physical.
And I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion. Item E will be, we'll be passing on that one tonight because the public hearing is just recessed, and that will bring us to future meetings and announcement. Mrs. Dawson, please.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. On November 10th at 7 p.m., there'll be a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting here at Town Hall. On November 11th, we'll be closed in observance of Veterans Day. And on November 17th, when are you going to continue the public hearing?
I guess we'll just continue with the same template. So we'll do it at 7.
7 p.m. Okay. So from 6:30 to 7
Yep.
p.m. you'll have office hours. From 7 p.m. You'll recess the public hearing.
Reopen.
Reopen the public
Resume.
hearing, thank you, yeah, that was wrong on my part. And at 7:30 PM or immediately following the public hearing will be the next trustee meeting here at Town Hall.
All right. Any other business? All right, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Good evening.
Thank you.